Well, it's the usual Tory drivel. I mean, why are they so arrogant? I just posted something on Twitter from a caller on LBC who summed it all up.
Never heard of it.
They are so arrogant that they are completely missing the point. They're supposed to be, they've got an 80-seat majority. Tell me one thing that they should be proud of that they've done with an 80-seat majority.
Let's consider Reform UK. They've yet to win a council seat in these elections, but they did come a close third in the Blackpool South parliamentary by-election, which Labour ultimately won. Reform UK were 117 votes short of the Conservatives, who came in second place. Rupert Lowe is Reform UK's business spokesman. Morning, Rupert.
Morning, Callum.
And
how are you?
I'm well, thank you. But more to the point, how are you? How are you feeling this morning? What are the words you're using to describe the mood in Team Reform UK?
Well, I think Team Reform, although underreported usually as the continuation of underreporting carries on, but our trend is very strong. And in chart terms, we've done a lot of consolidation and we're breaking up. So to get 10.5% in Kingswood, to get over 13% in Wellingborough, and now nearly 17% in Blackpool, and narrowly coming a third to the Tories, I think we're moving in the right direction, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I hear you on that there's a trend, but the trend leaves you falling short of actually winning any elected office.
Well, I think again, Callum, you describe us, and I think many other mainstream media outlets describe us as far right. Look, we're not we don't cover the far right ground. We don't cover.
Not sure I've ever used that phrase, but go on.
We don't cover the far left. We are the real ground. And what's happening is, and this is incredibly relevant and significant, is that the British people are seeing their standard of living falling. They've seen a Tory majority with 80 seats, which we helped to gift them when Nigel Farage stood down in 300 Tory seats. I stood down in Dudley North, which actually was a Labour seat, by 23 votes. And what you're seeing is disaffection with the two-party system. I mean, people don't like Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer's not going to lead us to the promised land. So what you're seeing is you're actually seeing an incredible change, a bit like in 1900, you saw the emergence of the Labour Party. You are seeing the emergence of a really significant development in British politics. And if the mainstream parties don't wake up and smell the coffee, then it's just going to get worse and worse, and it's going to accelerate, because I can't see people's standard of living improving. I can't see the way we're governed and the people who are governing us doing either a very good job or doing the right thing for Britain. I think people can see that now, and incredibly phlegmatic as the British electorate is, it's now on the move, and I think that's incredibly significant and underreported.
The Conservatives this morning say that a vote for Reform UK is a vote for Labour. It just boosts Sir Keir Starmer. Do you agree with that?
Well, it's the usual Tory drivel. I mean, why are they so arrogant? I just posted something on Twitter from a caller on LBC who summed it all up.
Never heard of it.
They are so arrogant that they are completely missing the point. They're supposed to be, they've got an 80-seat majority. Tell me one thing that they should be proud of that they've done with an 80-seat majority. And what they say is, oh, well, we had to work through the COVID pandemic. Well, at the end of the day, they had power to change the way in which we're governed, to change the way in which British prosperity grows. Our stock market is declining. We're over-regulated. We're not growing. We've got sclerotic growth. I mean, come on, Callum. In the end, people vote with their pockets. We've been locked in terms of all our tax bands, so none of that's been indexed, and yet.
Okay, but the question was about whether a vote for reform.
Yeah. People can't afford to live as they should be living.
Okay, but the question is, and the point the Tories are making, and I hear you on all the policy issues, and I get that, but the point I'm asking about is a vote for Reform UK is simply a vote for Labour. And I mean, the underlying message there is that Reform UK are splitting votes off the Conservatives, hoovering them up for Reform UK, and that opens a door for Labour to get in. So do you accept that, at least in some places in the country, and there is data for this, by the way, Rupert, in terms of this actual electoral test that we're talking about, that we've got the results for so far, there are some cases where it can be spotted that Reform UK's sort of percentage change has come away from the Tories and has let Labour through.
We're winning Labour votes too, Callum. As I said to you, the British public aren't, Keir Starmer, human rights lawyer, left wing, if you want me to call him, he's far left. the guy voted Remain twice. He doesn't represent the majority of people who voted
So
for
where are you
Brexit.
doing that? Where have you won
So,
Labour
so
votes?
that's happening too. It's not just
Where?
the Tories. The Tories are only in focus because they've singularly failed with an 80-seat majority to do anything.
Where are you winning votes from Labour, Rupert? In this last 24 hours, where have you won votes from Labour?
We are winning votes from Labour generally. It's not just the Tories.
Where?
I can't tell you where we've won them in the last 24 hours, Callum. That's a ridiculous question.
Why is it a ridiculous question? It's a claim you've made and I'm interrogating it.
I can't tell you how many votes we won from Labour in the last 24 hours. You know
so
that.
You're assuming it.
I'm telling you that over the last period, when I stood in Kingswood, we were winning Labour votes and we were winning Tory votes. It is not just the Tories. The Tories are in main focus because they have failed with an 80-seat majority. Let's just see if Keir Starmer wins, what he does with his majority, because as George Galloway said, they're two cheeks of the same backside, and there's no difference.
I mean, it's a cute phrase. It's a cute phrase, isn't it? But let's consider some of the other things here. One of the considerations that we've had put to us on this programme this morning is that Reform UK, despite what you're saying, Rupert, or alongside what you're saying, is that you're not matching UKIP's levels of support from years gone by. Why is that?
Well, we're getting there, Callum. The trend is very strongly upwards. And we're a small party, we're an emergent party. As I said, I'd use the analogy of the Labour Party at the turn of 1900. They actually ended up, it took them 20 years to get into power.
So will it take you 20 years? When will you have your first elected representative?
Hang on, let me just finish. What you've seen in the last 12 months is stellar. You can't deny the fact that in the polls, what we've achieved with a small, young, emergent team is spectacular, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I'm not a psephologist, so I don't feel I can speak to that. But one thing that psephologists do say is that based on what we've seen in these batch of elections, is that your national kind of vote support, rather, is around 7 to 8%. That is the extrapolation. And so that's probably not enough to tip you over into winning an elected seat at any point soon. So when do you anticipate that may happen?
But on the basis of these election results, both the local council elections and where we're standing in 323 seats, and also in the by-election in Blackpool, we're not polling 7 or 8%. We're polling more, Callum. And as you probably know, psephologist or not, as you probably know, in the first past the post system, when you break beyond a certain percentage, you start to win a disproportionately large percentage of seats. And what we're doing is we're heading up towards that level. To be 117 votes behind the Tories in Blackpool, that's powerful stuff. And I think, the mainstream media is completely missing the mood of the British people. And I think they're actually not serving the British people well. They should be talking about this. It's incredibly important.
Okay.
So rather than belittling what we've achieved, why aren't you celebrating it? It's incredible.
Well, it's not for me to do one or the other. In fact, what I'm doing and have been doing for the best part of 10 minutes now is speaking to you. So I'm not quite sure where the question on exposure is coming from. Anyway, my final question to you is around Nigel Farage, of course, which is to say this. If he believed in Reform UK, would he not have already committed himself to being something of a candidate for you, rather than this mythical creature who dots around the world saying he likes you but doesn't actually commit to anything?
Well, I think, again, Nigel Farage is one of the most important political figures in the last generation. And he's, arguably since Margaret Thatcher, he's probably been responsible for the biggest amount of change and, if you like, the biggest analysis of the British electoral system that we've seen. I think if Nigel comes back, we go up another 5% in the polls. I speak to Nigel. I don't know whether he's going to come back or not. I think there's a very good chance that he will. I hope he does. He is an incredible man. I enjoyed serving in the European Parliament with him. And if he comes back, Callum, that's going to push us through this crucial barrier where we do start to win a large number of seats. He's an important part of it. Yeah, I believe he is an important part of it. I don't think anybody would say he isn't.
Rupert, it's fascinating speaking to you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Rupert Lowe is Reform UK's business spokesman, reporting over the last 10 minutes on the underreported actions of Reform UK.